So let's get back to Killgissa, guy guessing or boy guessing. So essentially, have you ever asked maybe your boyfriend or your husband or your brother a question and they give you an answer and it's like boom, 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 boom. And you're like, oh, okay, sweet, sounds good. And then however later you're like, oh, this motherfucker was completely incorrect and had no idea what they were talking about, but they sounded like they knew. They were so confident in how they spoke. Well, I came across this TikTok of a man who was describing this same phenomenon. He was talking about it in terms of the Black community, but this also applies to, honestly, everybody. And I'm going to play that right now. And I want you to take a listen.
The biggest issue in the Black community is a Black male ego. We think we know and we don't. Because as little boys, we've been traumatized by our dads who didn't know any better. We were punished for not knowing. We weren't punished for not learning. Perfect example. Most Black men in here, you know, there's a male figure in the family. Hey boy, go bring me that 3/8 socket wrench. What the fuck is a 3/8 socket wrench? So you're a 6-year-old. So you walk over, you grab a ratchet and walk back. Boy, don't you know what a 3/8 socket wrench is? No. Now you feel like shit. So that instilled in you to act like you know even when you didn't. That's why there's so much conflict in our households. There's so much conflict in our communities. That's why your ego's so jacked up, because you don't want to humble yourself down to learn something.
He was preaching. But I love that he gave words to this phenomenon. And I mean, I feel like we've all seen this, we've all witnessed it, and we've even experienced it, even as women, like this, you know, being expected to know things as children that it's like, like he said, a 3/8 socket wrench, what the hell is that? But this especially applies to boys and men. You know, they're trained to act like they know, even when they don't know. From like traumatizing situations like that, where your dad or your grandfather is like belittling you because you didn't know something that it's like, dog, how, I am 8. I'm 8. And then what happens is it's because it really is a skill set in some ways that you have to practice. That skill set, or really I'd say maybe that coping mechanism carries with you throughout your adulthood. And then you find yourself in situations where you're being asked questions and people are relying on you and you're just like, blah, 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 blah. Act like you know, even when you don't. So I posted this on my TikTok. And then somebody stitched my TikTok and went even further into it. And I was like, damn, this is good stuff. So you know I'm about to share it with you too. Teach men to pretend like they know what they're talking about, even when they don't. Let me pause. That's me, by the way. That's the part of the stitch that he stitched.
Holy cow, this is so absolutely true. And I don't care if any man says that they weren't trained in this. We were trained in this. Okay, but they called it speaking with authority, right? And men are taught to speak with authority, directly taught by men, taught by the church, and by example, simply by watching confident men. And remember that before the internet, confident men speaking with authority couldn't be challenged immediately with facts that contradict their opinion. If a man spoke with enough authority, all of those in his environment were forced to accept this reality or be threatened with violence. And men are taught to speak with authority so much that we don't even question our own authority sometimes. And if someone is confident enough, you don't disrespect or question the authority of someone else.
Dangerous. Before they got cut off. Speaking with authority. I've heard that term before. Speaking with authority. Act like you know, even if you don't know. Killgissa. Guy guessing. Boy guessing. And this has real world freaking implications. Like I told you, ladies, I had to find this out the hard way in my life. Okay? Oh Lord, I was on a house improv team over at a theater called Second City. It doesn't exist anymore in Hollywood. It used to. It still exists in Chicago, but it doesn't exist here anymore since the pandemic. But I was on a house team there, And I think it was like 50-50 men and women. And me and like the dudes on that team, like things that I would think would be like the simplest, easiest conversations would be like the biggest challenges. And I would be so confused. I'd be like, what's going on here? Why do I have to fight so hard to get a simple thing, like make a simple thing happen? I would be working so hard. And, you know, I realized it was like one day I had this like just awakening, this epiphany. I was like, oh my God. These motherfuckers don't know what they're talking about. They just talking. They're just talking and they don't know what they're talking about. And I'm arguing back and forth with these people when I know what I'm talking about. And me and the women on that team, we will be like, you know, in the car on the corner of goddamn Santa Monica and who knows where till like 4 a.m. talking and like, why can't we get the simplest things done? Why is everything an argument and a discussion and a back and forth and a back and forth? And ladies, y'all know what I'm talking about when you're in those staff meetings, y'all. A staff meeting that should take 30 minutes takes 45, an hour, 2 hours because all that back and forth, because you're explaining simple concepts and you're like arguing with people and you don't realize that the reason why you're arguing is because they don't know what they're talking about. And meanwhile, here we are, Shevetta, girl knowing,